Hey folks, Craig Danger, vinyl record player. Hup! I'm just here to show you my top 10 finds of 2023. It's gonna be easy. It's gonna be some beautiful records here you'll wanna see. So please don't miss out, but do buckle up. All right, and we're back. Yeah. So, how about that 2023? How about it? How about it? You know what? I have to say, just obviously on a personal level, wow, it was a bear of a year, and at the same time, it was a delight. I don't know what I can say if I'm not going to go into deeper detail, so I won't. I'll just get right to the records. Yeah, we got 10 records here. Some of them were picked up at stores. Some of them I discounted them because I'm talking about the best. These are the records that you'll want to take a look at and be like, oh, why don't I have that record? I should have that record. So let's just start right off the stop. Look at this. How about Blind Faith from 1969? I know everyone. If you're a fan, you're like, well, how did I not have this? Hey, these things happen. But you know what? This is obviously a fantastic record. I think it probably, obviously Blind Faith, we've got Steve Winwood, Rick Gretsch on bass, Ginger Baker on drums, and who? Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton on guitar. And you know what? Phenomenal. If anything, the largest problem with this record is that there's only one Blind Faith record. They did one record, couldn't get along. Probably the writing should have been on the wall because, of course, Ginger Baker and Eric Clapton had already been in Cream together, discovered, hey, you know what? I don't think I like hanging out with you for years at a time. So what happens? They break up. For some reason, they get back together, and except now they call on Steve Winwood, who is fantastic on this record. This is basically what I think this is basically Cream and a half. With all due respect to the Cream fans out there, I think, you know, in terms of vocals, I think it would be a fool's game to try to compare Steve Winwood and Jack Bruce. With all due respect to Jack Bruce, who, again, phenomenal player, phenomenal bassist. But yeah, we're talking about Steve Winwood on this LP, and ooh, it's a cooker. Not much to say about this record except, you know what, it's available by the fistful. And you can usually get it, I would say, in most jurisdictions, you can get it for under 15. This was a pretty good copy on the ACO label. And again, there's the other pervy, kind of not very nice cover that I think was basically brought out for about 10 seconds in Britain, and then it was gone. It probably brought it out like that in Canada, too. This was the US version, which is just a lot more attractive of a cover. You know, it's the band. It's not a young girl. Anyway. If you've seen the cover, yeah, we can move on from it. But anyway, Blind Faith, the self-titled and only, the debut and only LP by Blind Faith, the supergroup. And wow, this one's a cooker. Just as an additional note on Blind Faith, there is a full-on live concert, really song by song, so you have to find each of the clips individually on YouTube, where it's basically Blind Faith live at Hyde Park. I think it was their first gig. Apparently Clapton had some issues with the sound of his guitar on the gig. Problem with Clapton is that he is often wrong. And wow, some of his playing on that Hyde Park gig, just phenomenal, beautiful stuff. So if you're interested in Blind Faith, take a look for Blind Faith live at Hyde Park on the YouTubes. Ooh, it's cooking. It's a very, very good gig. But again, really great album. This, of course, these are in no particular order, friends. I'm just going to go through them. Oh, how about Chapter 2, Roberta Flack. This was a year that I really suffered under what I would call a brutal Flack attack. And wow, a big fan of Roberta Flack. I think the way that she sort of restyles songs to fit her entire vibe. She sort of creates a new vibe on every song. Much as Artha will try to power her way in order to own a song, not so Roberta Flack. A lot of interesting arrangements. I think by this point, we still have Donny Hathaway doing the arrangements on this one. And yeah, Joel Dorn, I believe, is a producer on this album. Woo! Really good record. If you see this one, also take a look at First Take. in my opinion, frankly, anything by Roberta Flack before 75 is verging on classic. Post that, we start to get a little bit into more of the technology and, the keyboards that are a little bit funky sounding. Not good funky, bad funky. But up until 75, including this, her second album, which I believe is from probably 70, 71. This is an amazing album, cover to cover. And like I say, up until probably Killing Me Softly, which would have been her fourth LP. You can pick those up all day. I'm pretty sure I just picked it up at the local record store. Woo, love this record. Been listening to it more. Key track on this one has got to be Do What You Gotta Do, which has been heavily covered, but nobody does. Kind of, do I want to cry? Do I want to die? Oh, so emotional, this version, but it cooks, and it is another classic. Roberta Flack, like I say, anything before 75, if you see it in the bins, and you will. As a matter of fact, this year I also picked up about 5 copies of First Take, because I kept on seeing them in the $3 bin, and I'm like, yeah, I would give those VCLT to anyone who has not actually seen or heard First Take by Roberta Flack. But anyway, this is chapter 2. This is less common in the bins. And again, a scorcher of a record. Roberta Flack kicking it in 71 with chapter 2. This one, I think, was more kind of a surprise. This one was kind of a surprise for me. The Southside Movement. There was a repress of this. This is probably around 74. A bit of a funk classic, a Chicago funk classic. For me, the condition on this. Oh, look at that sleeve. Oh, it's kind of atrocious, friends. Kind of atrocious. But this is an original press, and again, I came for the plaid, friends. I came for the plaid. Stayed for the funky. And you know what? It's a great record, particularly the opening track. I've been watching you on the Wand label. Wow, really, really good record. Like I say, there was a repress, I'm going to say around 2018, 2017, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to buck up, pay, $30, $40 for that record. And then I found an original copy for about 10. And like I say, the sleeve is in terrible condition, but you know what? The record plays super solidly on that Wand label. Winner. Again, the Southside Movement from 74. This would be their only LP, but a funky one it is, and if you see it, please pick it up. Ooh, this is all unintentional, but you know what? Blues Breakers, John Mayall with Eric Clapton. I've been looking for this record for quite a while. This is the one, I will say this, if you are a John Mayall enthusiast, or if you're an enthusiast, you already know this. But if you're looking to get into John Mayall, whoa, those used bins, dang, they be chock full of John Mayall records, except this one. This, of course, being the Beano LP, as it's often known as. As we can see, Eric Clapton right there. He's reading the old Beano comics. Oh, Eric. Just so devil may care is Eric Clapton. But whatever the case, this is a scorcher of an album. And there's a reason why this one's never in the used bins. Because it is known as, on the London label, it is known as kind of one of, if not John Mayall's best LPs, then definitely top 2. I believe after this, the next album, I think it's called The Hard Road, would have Peter Green, him of course. He would end up in the original version of the scorchin' bluesy version of the Fleetwood Mac. And anyway, this one, it's not really nice to get, but what really seals it for me here is I didn't have to pay up for this big dog. This dog was $3. Is it in perfect condition? No. But does it sound great? Is it really crisp? Is it lacking a lot of the sort of fuzz and the noise? Yes, it is. So this easily makes my top 10 of the year. John Mayall with Eric Clapton, the Blues Breakers. Oh, good album. And yeah, like I say, as far as British blues, it's very hard to top this one. It is a winner. So next up, what do we got? Oh, this was one that I had to order initially. This is on a Rhino Black. This is, of course, Young, Gifted, and Black, Artha Franklin. I believe her best LP of the 1970s, absolutely. And definitely top 2 or top 3 of that initial Ahmet Ertegun and Wexler period. But this one, I was like, I'm not going to find this. There's no way I'm going to find this. Let me get it on the Rhino Black. Beautiful yellow sort of business. If there's any downside to this record, though, it's a little bit, the gain on this, it's a little high end in terms of the overall sound. And high end is the wrong terminology. It's a little bright. It's a little almost too bright, where it's just like, oh, is the record supposed to sound like that? So it is what it is. But again, classic LP. But what happens? Oh, I go to the store a couple of weeks later and I pick up an original for £5. Now, is this in anywhere near as good condition? No, not at all. I mean, we got some seam splits, but this is original. So I think, just on black, I believe it's on the black Atlantic label. But nice to pick this one up for $5. You ain't ever gonna see this one for $5 in the bins. I was shocked. I still honestly have to listen to this one because, of course, I paid $30 for the other ones. I'm gonna listen to that one, but this one perhaps I'll take a listen to tonight. Classic album, obviously. Scott Carter didn't think so. So Scott, you were wrong. Hey Scott, what's wrong with you, bro? It's a great album, man. Well, anyway, Scott was wrong, but you shouldn't be. If you see this LP, please pick it up, especially if you see it for $5. It's absurd. Classics on this one, we got Daydreaming is a really good one. Oh Me, Oh My. But this is kind of a cover-to-cover classic. There are a couple of albums from the early 70s from that Erdogan period where maybe they're not cover-to-cover great, but this one is, and certainly makes my top 10 of the year. Either copy, either Rhino or this, but again, if you can find an original copy, I think you might get rid of some of the brightness that's on this one. It's, like I say, it almost on certain tracks, it's a little grating. You're like, whoa, guys, calm down. Can we bring those levels down? Didn't want to bring the levels down. This one I found late in the year, which I was very pleased to find. Big fan of Jimmy Cliff going back way early. I had his compact disc for his debut album entitled Jimmy Cliff. It was the debut album is, of course, also this. Wonderful World, Beautiful People, released on the A&M label. As you can see, this is probably a repress because, wow, just clean and beautiful looking cover. And obviously, we got Jimmy on the back. Jimmy looking good. Jimmy riding his bike, his motorcycle. But yeah, wow. Jimmy Cliff, just recently I decided to start edging slowly, ever so slowly into the reggae world, and you start with what you know. And frankly, Jimmy Cliff, like I say, this first album, I think pretty much anything up until about 75 you can buy with ease, no problem. But of course, that first LP, Wonderful World, Beautiful People, this is a really, really stellar record. In England, I believe it's still called Jimmy Cliff, different cover and everything. But this album, Many Rivers to Cross is on this guy. Wonderful World, Beautiful People, Time Will Tell. Cover to cover, this is all amazing sort of reggae, ska-ish type of songs. But yeah, I mean, you cannot lose with Jimmy Cliff. And just find the debut, I think I paid about $15 for this one, but in such nice, clean condition. Like I say, because of this, my sense is this is definitely maybe an 80s repress, but who cares? It's fantastic. Jimmy Cliff, Wonderful World, Beautiful People. Yes, well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Cover to cover, this is a legendary album. George and Gwen McCrae together. The irony and the hilarity, of course, is that they recorded this 1 year later, they would get a divorce. But I've said this consistently, and I will continue, and I will repeat myself as if I was some sort of maniac. But Together is, in fact, one of the sexiest LPs ever made, but also the sexiest LP ever made by a couple. Simple as that. Married couple? Tell me another one in the comments. Who else made a sexy LP like this one, or not even like this one? Who made a sexier LP as a married couple than George and Gwen McCrae? The answer is I don't really think anyone did. This album, unfortunately, did absolutely nothing. It did toilets, let's be honest, worth of business. And so as a result, they never really did another one. The odd sort of, I guess, facet of this LP was that initially both Gwen and George were duetting kind of from the start of their career with the Cat label. And they didn't have very much success, so they kind of went on their own. George McCrae releases, Rock Me Baby. Huge hit, top 10 hit. Year later, Gwen releases Rockin' Chair. One of the sexiest songs ever released, also top 10 hit. So for some reason they come back with this LP, Cell Zero. Again, everything on this is written by Clarence Reed, another sort of Cat Alston, Florida soul alumnus. And anything Clarence writes is typically fantastic. But this album cooks all the way through. The big killer on this one, of course, is Mechanical Body. Woo! Lazy Boo out for Mechanical Body, that's a guarantee. But this one I actually had to pick up because, again, I had to actually get this on the Discogs because, you know what? Nobody bought this stuff, unfortunately. And it is very unfortunate. This one is way deserving of a, something like a record store date type of re-release. So yeah, Gwen and George McCrae together. To be honest, I'm not sure that either one of them did any LPs that were as consistently amazing as this one. But obviously that's something that's a to be continued assessment as I continue to definitely, George, I have an LP by him, but you know what? It's more Gwen. Gwen has a sexy delivery, and wow, she's a great singer. That's all I can say. So Gwen and George McCrae together, part of the top 10 finds of 2023. Craig Danger. By the way, if you're still here, why aren't you subscribed? Oh, you are? Okay, never mind. Oh, you aren't? Come on. Subscribe up, people. Get some of this fantastic content on I'm going to say at least a weekly basis, but sometimes more, maybe rarely less. But we're continuing. We're coming into the final three here. This one I had to get because this was just through the Danger's regular soul exploration. Found out about Sisters Love. Sisters Love, of course, a girl group. Basically, they did a lot of background work, much like the Sweet Inspirations did a lot of background work. But wow, they ended up signing up to the Mo West label. As you can see, this is by no means an original copy. In fact, I think this is more of a compilation released around 2010. But I had to order this on the Discogs because, first of all, it's a compilation from the 2010s. Nobody cares about Sisters Love. They're wrong. They're fools. They are fools. But you know what? This whole album is just cooking, and this is one of those girl groups that should have been ginormous. But again, what happened? They were on the Mo West label. And unfortunately, you know what? I think probably in terms of Motown, I've discussed this many a time, but I really feel like in Motown, they tended to really heavyweight their roster. So when it came down to promotion, the big guys would just get promotion like crazy. The middle tier would get very little, and below that, I mean, forget it. You were doomed. On Mo West, I honestly, and in the comments, if anybody knows, please let me know. Were there any hugely successful releases on the Mo West label? I don't think there were. Because again, I think a lot of the Motown promotion dollar in the 70s went to who? Went to Stevie Wonder, went to Marvin Gaye, went to Diana Ross. A lot of these artists that basically maybe they didn't need as much of that promotion dollar, but whoa, did they get it? Leaving groups like Sisters Love, unfortunately, sort of flailing in the wind. Best track on this one is easily "Give Me Your Love," cover of the Curtis Mayfield classic. But you know what? Let me tell you, it's just funkier than you might imagine, and really kind of, you never want to say it, kind of blows the doors off of Curtis Mayfield's version, making Curtis feel so little and inadequate. Which, I mean, you make Curtis Mayfield feel that way? Yo, you got something. Sisters Love with Love, and again, this is not an old record. This is around 2010. Still very available. You can pick it on Amazon, or obviously the preference here at the Danger Channel is always Discogs, and that's where I picked up this one. But this one was one I was seeking pretty much right away, and you know what? Turns out the whole album, giant banger. All right, we're rounding it out with I know, we're rounding it out. I mean, you're gonna be thinking about it. Hey, Craig, you can get this for $5 bones, bro. $5 bones. Yes, you could in a lot of cases. Lou Rawls, late 60s work with the David Axelrod. Some of, in my opinion, just beautiful stuff. Real swinging in kind of like almost a Sinatra type of style with the music. Lou Rawls, again, he's a voice who you really have to get used to. It took me a while to get used to Lou. And in fact, at the very start, I was like, I don't like Lou. I was all grumpy pants about Lou Rawls. Ooh, and ho, was I wrong. Picked this one up, I believe this is from 66, but again, anything Lou between about 62, which is his first album, also picked that up last year with Les McCann, noted jazz pianist, R.I.P. Les actually unfortunately just passed, literally like a week or two ago, this obviously being January 2024, but yeah, this album is amazing, and frankly, obviously the big winner on this one is Love is a Hurtin' Thing. But like I say, this is cover to cover. I think his best album with the Axelrod. All of Lou's stuff up until about 70 when he joins the MGM label. Of course, this is on the Capitol label. Is very, very good. And it's not straight up soul. I wouldn't call it R&B. It's soul, but again, there's like I say, some Sinatra-esque sort of musical passages there. And of course, Lou, that voice. Woo! That's a voice that again, sometimes you got to get used to, but once you do, it'll cook you. It'll cook you real good. So Lou Rawls, soul and the best of his works with David Axelrod from 66. Some might say 68. I think it's 66. I really do. But at any rate, so that's a winner. And final one, had to close it out. Yeah. Half Full of Hollow. This is a repress, of course. This is not a original copy. I mean, I'm here in America. You're not going to find a lot of original presses kicking around, but you know what? It's a classic record. I was looking for a Smiths record. Oddly enough, in the time period when I was into the Smiths, which was more around the 90s, I never had this. I never had this on cassette. I had virtually everything else on cassette and or compact disc. Half Full of Hollow, I didn't. This is, I think, probably just because Louder Than Bombs got really a little tiresome for me. I wore that cassette the hell out. Half Full of Hollow to me remains kind of their best compilation, but again, Louder Than Bombs you certainly can't go wrong with. And if you're new, I almost would say Louder Than Bombs first. This has some really good versions of songs like What Difference Does It Make, Handsome Devil, Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now. A lot of really good stuff, some Peel session stuff, and again, Half Full of Hollow easily makes my top 10 LPs. This one again, I had to pony up for this big dog. This one was about 30 bones, but well worth it. The Smiths, Half Full of Hollow. Rounding out my top 10 selections of 2023. Again, thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what your top 10 picks of the year were, or give me a little taste. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. But in the meantime, you know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see you on when? I think the next one.